Well, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm having a little bit of trouble with internet these days. So if you see me freezing, I'm glad I get a thumbs up. Let me know if you can hear me because truthfully, I have been having trouble with internet. And I appreciate if you let me know that you can hear me. Then at least I know that we're on our way to a course today. Thank you. I hope you all had a great Thanksgiving. I appreciate the thumbs up. Um, you will, Chris is usually the one who tells you a little bit about questioning. Questioning will all be done. He's on holidays this week. Questioning will be done at the end of the session. And we have a question area that you can either put it in attendee chat or, look for. I'm not sure how you're viewing this, whether you're on a laptop or whatever. But anyways, the attendee chat, you can add your comments there and I will deal with all your questions at the end. I'm going to turn off my camera because it makes the image larger and I want to make sure you get to see the image. And like I say, if things take a bit of a second or two to load normally, that's the reason. So again, hopefully everybody can hear me okay. So, okay, I'm going to turn off my camera now and we're going to start today. Looking forward to spending my hour time with you all. Let me just turn this off. Great. And we're going to go into full screen mode. Hopefully you can see that really well. Okay, so let's begin. Handling objections. Oh my God. Objections. So let's start. It's about learning. Handling objections is about learning to really be able to communicate effectively. And what I mean by that, I mean being able to explain to people whatever message you're trying to explain simply, clearly, in as few words as possible, and being able to explain it properly. Have you ever had someone try and explain something to you? Doesn't even have to be a real estate situation at all, but have you ever had someone trying to explain something to you and they were just not good at explaining, and you found yourself more confused as they were explaining than you were before they even started to explain? That's what I'm talking about, what you don't want to do. You need to know how to be able to explain things from beginning to end, like in a linear fashion, as I call it. So these are the 7 C's of communication. Correct. You want to make sure your information is correct. It's complete. It's not missing anything. It's concrete. It's concise. It's coherent. Obviously, you got to be courteous to people. You got to be clear. So these are basically what you have to think about when you're trying to explain something, knowing that you're going to do it in a way that people understand you, as I said, with as few words said as possible. So when we communicate, there's 2 different styles. And I talk about this in my negotiating course as well. There are 2 different styles. One is making statements and the other is asking questions. And I always say to real estate agents, the most important step of learning how to be good at this business and be effective and successful in dealing with people is knowing how to question effectively without making people feel like you're interrogating them. So there's making statements, no house in this area is going to sell for that kind of money. If you sign it back, I know these people are not going to be able to want to go that high. So whenever you make a statement, uh, we'll look at what can possibly happen with that. And a lot of times when I have gone out on appointments with agents over the years, many years ago, I'd watch them, and because they'd say, I'm having difficulty closing. And I'd say, okay, let me go with you, let me watch you. And that is one of the things that I noticed, that they were making statements rather than asking questions. So we want to make sure that you understand there's a big difference between the two. And I'm going to share that with you in a moment, what the differences are between making statements and asking questions. When you make a statement, remember, every time you do that, you potentially open the floor up for a debate. people will automatically think when you say, well, no house in this area will sell for that kind of money. I'm just making this up as we go along. So when I make a statement like that, the other side can say, well, my house is going to sell for that, or I'm not going to sell it. So my point is, whenever you make a statement, the people will not pay that price. They'll continue looking. Well, go ahead and let them keep looking, if you know what I mean. So my point is, that is not the way to try and have uh, to be able to handle objections or to be able to close anyone, is to try and make statement after statement after statement. Very, very different when you ask questions. When you ask a question, uh, it's a completely different feeling. I remember with a course that I took many, many, many years ago where I learned this very point about statements versus questioning. And the seminar facilitator made the point. He was in the room of about 1,000 people. It was a huge seminar that we were at, a real estate seminar. And he said, it's cold in here. And he made that statement. And he said, you see, when I say that, I'm only thinking of myself. It's me, I. I'm cold, turn the temperature up. When in fact, there are people in this room, I bet you, that are not cold. They're actually maybe warm even. So you see, once you make a statement, you automatically potentially open the floor up for debate. But when I say to you, do you find it cold in here? You see, it's very different. Now, all of a sudden, I'm concerned about your comfort. It's not about me, it's about you. So that's why it's so important to always remember it's questioning, but knowing how to be able to ask those questions we'll look at without making people feel uncomfortable. So here are a few thoughts on handling objections. It's not always an objection. Maybe it's a concern. There's a big difference between a concern and an objection. We'll look at that in a moment. So before you handle the objection, determine if it is really an objection, or maybe it's just a thought or a concern, maybe even a question, but not an objection at all. So, excuse me, I'm going to take a drink of water. I used to always say to real estate agents, when you hear someone address a concern and objection, the first thing you should do is pause. Don't be too quick to respond. Agents often hear an objection and they react and take a position very quickly, and that can make people feel uncomfortable. Like objection, response, objection, response. It almost can get into feel like it's a bit of a battle going on, even though that's not what you're trying to do. So take a deep breath when you hear the objection. Think about it for a few seconds. Don't be so immediate at a response. Make sure that you heard them. So listen, repeat what they said, affirm it. In other words, so what you're telling me, just want to make sure I understand. So what you're telling me is, and you're going to repeat what they said, am I correct? And you're going to affirm that. Is that in fact what you're saying? So always remember, is it an objection or is it a concern? There are two very different situations when you think of an objection versus a concern. So objections are more serious in nature and can be detrimental if you don't handle it correctly. In other words, an objection are situations that you will have to solve in order for the deal to be accepted or the listing to be generated. Because they have an objection, you have to deal with it. A concern often comes in the form of questions, or comments. Example, they're walking through the house, they say, oh my God, I hate the color of this carpet. Oh, now when they say that, to me, that's not an objection. It's a concern. So whenever you hear concerns like that, I don't like the color of the paint. Oh my God, what did they do with that? When you hear things like that, you don't want to immediately respond. I always had a rule of three when it came to that. I used to have a number of rule of threes. The first rule of three, when they'd say, I don't like the color of the carpet, I didn't hear them. I was stone deaf. It went in one ear and out the other. I'm not going to even address it because I'm not concerned about it yet. Okay. Now we continue looking at the house. We go into another room. They say, oh my God, they've got this carpet all the way through the house. Now they've said it a second time. And I'm going to say, if the carpet was, what color would you like to see the carpet? Asking them a question kind of thing, but might be probably the first thing I would say. Well, I prefer X color, whatever. So if the carpet was the color that you would like, would you be prepared to put an offer on? Is the only problem you have with the house the color of the carpet? So what I'm going to do now, after I've heard it a second time, maybe even a third time, when they've pointed something out, then I'm going to address it. And I'm going to address it in a way that's going to try and see if is this the only problem we have? If this is the only problem we have, we can solve that problem. How much does it cost to get new carpet put in the main floor or the bottom, wherever this carpet is? And maybe we can get the seller to give you a credit on the cost of the carpet since you're going to pull it up. There's a solution somewhere with that. So my point is, be careful in not assuming that everything you hear you have to handle, because that can be very frustrating on a buyer, when every time they say something you've got an answer for it, and because that can feel like you're pushing them, and that's where a lot of agents get mixed up. So when you're showing the house, don't be concerned about every little point they make that they don't like this or they're worried about that. Make sure you understand the difference between concerns and objections, and don't be too quick to handle every single solitary thing, because that can be looked at as being pushy. Okay. Remember the definition of closing. Closing is helping people make decisions that are good for them. I often used to say to my buyers and my sellers, Mr. Client, my job is to provide you the information you need so you can make a sound, well-informed decision. That is my job. Okay. It's their job to make the decision. I don't make the decision. I just have to give you information based on my years of experience so that you have the facts that you need to make that decision, and a sound decision, a well-informed decision. That's what my job is. And that's what your job is, obviously. So remember, the definition of closing, it's the process of helping people make decisions that are good for them. Closing begins when you first meet the customer. In other words, if I'm working with a buyer, sitting down and having a buyer consultation, as a matter of fact, I'm working on right now. I'm probably a third of the way through. I'm hoping that I'll be finished by, next week. The end of next week, I'm hoping to be finished. I have a buyer course, that not a buyer course, but a buyer presentation that I'm working on, that you will be able to download the PDF and use it actually with a buyer yourself. And there'll be slides that you can edit and so on. I'm working on that right now. But always remember, the most important part of working with a buyer or a seller is that first consultation and providing them the information you need. And what I mean by that is educating the buyer. Are they a first-time buyer? Have they ever bought anything before in way of a home? They've never bought before. Then you got to teach them about working with you as a realtor. And in my course that I'm working on right now, the presentation that I'm working on, we're going to go through the slides to teach you what to say to the buyer, that I'm working on right now. And I'll do a presentation for you, and I'll actually demonstrate how you use it. So it begins by educating them. What happens before an offer comes in, the process of buying a home, all the different stages of buying a home. You want to educate them on that, because the more educated your customer is, the easier it is to close them. The harder it is when you haven't educated them. So you should be closing always. And we'll talk more about, obviously, that as we come along. And also, very important that you be positive all the time. Nothing is worse than having a real estate agent. So try to get rid of words that like, well, maybe, it could be, it's possible. I'm not 100% no problem saying you're not sure, but I know where to get the information. So let me make a call to a lawyer, to a mortgage guy, to my broker of record. You don't have to have the answers of everything. Never be afraid to say, you know what, that's a good question. I don't know, but I know who to call. Let me get my cell phone here. I'm going to call the lawyer or whatever. So show them that you're not afraid to say I don't know, because when you do that, rather than say, well, it could be this, it might be that, get rid of could, should, it shouldn't be in your vocabulary. That makes people doubt you. What makes people have confidence in you is when you say to them, I'm not sure, but I know where to get the answer. Give me a minute, let me call this my mortgage guy or my title person or whatever it is that you have to call. Only three things happen when you're trying to overcome objections. I want to make sure you're clear of that. Only three things can happen, period. And the first thing that can happen when they give you an objection is you overcome the objection and you close them. That's one thing that can happen. And it's happened. If you've been in the business long enough, then I know it's probably happened to you. You've heard objections, you've been able to overcome them, and you've sold the house or you got the listing. So that's one thing that can happen. The second thing that can happen, they are not convinced. They repeat the same objection, but they change the wording slightly. Like if you're trying to get a listing and they say, I have, thank you very much, but, I want to think it over. Okay. And you try to, you deal with that. I'll give you an example of that in a moment, but you deal with it and they're still not sure. And you say, I really don't like I like to take my time making decisions. I'm very slow at making decisions. It's the same objection. I want to think it over. They've just said it a different way. Remember, the more times they keep coming back with the same objection again and again and again, the more valid that objection is. Okay. Now, the third thing that'll happen potentially, okay, is they give up on the, I need to think it over. And they might say, well, I have a friend in real estate. I wouldn't mind checking with them first. So they abandon the one objection and they come up with another one. Okay. And what they're really trying to do here is they're trying to stall. Okay. So the first thing I say to a real estate agent is, let me ask you this. What does an objection mean? I want you to think about that. We'll come up with that in a moment. But what does an objection mean to a real estate agent? Okay. So the first example, when I said, I want to think it over, by the way, I was with someone not that long ago, and that was the objection that the client was using, is I want to think it over. And again, pause, give yourself a few minutes, give them a few minutes. I usually always shake my head in a yes direction when I'm pausing to make it look like I'm thinking. Okay. And then, I'll look at them and I'll say, do you mind if I ask you, I've been here quite a while now. And we've talked about a lot of things here. Based on everything that I've explained, is there any reason that you might feel uncomfortable working with me? And the seller says, no, we're fine. You absolutely not. You seem like you really know what you're doing. I say, okay, great. Thank you very much. What about the company I work for? Do you have any concern about having our company represent you in the sale of your property? And they have no problem there. And I say, then what about the price that we talked about? Is the price a concern? So now they might come back, well, we were kind of hoping to get a little more. Okay, so now we've narrowed it down. They're not really wanting to think about it. What they really don't like is the price. Okay, so that's why I went through. Are you happy with this? Are you happy with that? What about this? Is this a problem? So what you're doing is trying to narrow in on, what is that they really want to think about. Because truthfully, what does it mean, an objection to a real estate agent? Whoops, I think I hit the wrong button there. We'll come to that. I thought it was the next slide. Sorry, my order is a little out here today for me. But anyways, I want to make sure you see the difference between a negotiation and a debate. I'll come back with what does an objection mean. There is a slide on that in here. So let's look at a debate and a negotiation. In a debate, if you've ever watched a political debate or in university participated in debates, there's definitely a win-lose attitude. One Both of the parties want to win and they want the other person to lose. So that is not what negotiations is all about. Negotiators, professional negotiators, it's always win-win. Whether you're working the buyer or you're working the seller, or might even be a transaction where you happen to be doing both sides of the transaction, with the permission of both sides, knowing that, in whatever, it's always win-win. It's not about the buyer going, the buyer not offering enough or the seller wanting too much. It's trying to get them to see a meeting of the mind. So it's always win-win. In a debate, it's very adversarial. It can get a bit heated at times. We certainly have seen heated political debates. None of us can deny that. Whereas in negotiations, it's about cooperation. It's about It's about the agents cooperating with each other. It's about the buyer cooperating with the seller and trying to get the seller to cooperate with the buyer. It's looking for cooperation, and your message, the way you communicate, is looking for that cooperation. In a debate, it's my way or the highway. It's very inflexible. This is what they want. This is how it has to be, or we're not doing it. That's a debate. In negotiation, it's looking for flexibility. If I could get you this, would you prepare to do that? Okay, it's looking for the flexibility in people rather than, no, it's this way or not at all. Okay, so again, it's the way you word things that is so important to the communication. In a debate, there are third parties, there are moderators there. Every debate, there'll be a moderator there, a referee, if you will, to keep everybody calm and to keep the conversation not to get too heated. Whereas in negotiations, you as a real estate agent are not a third party. You're not the referee. You are not a moderator here. What you are is a party to this transaction. You're facilitating it. So in other words, there are no third parties here. Your job is to try and bring two people to see and have a meeting of the minds. That's my job. That's your job. In a debate, there are no concessions. As I said, my way or the highway. Whereas in negotiations is, if you can't get this, suppose that, what if, would you consider, is there a possibility, have you thought of, okay, you see what I'm saying? You're always trying to look for a concession. If I can get you this, would you prepare to let them have this? Okay, and that's why the questioning that you see me doing here, and again, the trying to look for that common ground, the cooperation, the win-win, that's what I'm referring to. Again, in a debate, it's making statements. In a negotiation, it's always questioning, because it's so different when you make a statement. As I said, you are opening it up automatically for a debate. And last but not least, of course, in a debate, it's about personal needs. It's, about me. I need this deal. Oh my God, I need this listing. This would be a great listing. I know I could sell. I know it would sell. I want the commission. It's about personal needs in a debate. In a negotiation, it's about their needs. I know how much you wanted this area. I know how much you love this style of home. Here's your opportunity. It's about them. It's not, don't be thinking about your commission. Don't be thinking about your deal, because that is putting the focus on the wrong area. You got to focus on the customer and what they want, making them happy. My job is to provide the information you need so you can make a sound, well-informed decision. I want to make sure every question you have is answered, kind of thing. So it's about them. It's not about you. Difference between the two. So what does an objection mean? Here's a slide that I thought was in the other order. It's not a no. Okay, what the client is really telling you is, I'm not convinced yet. I need more information. So what they're really doing when they're stalling and they're saying think about it, or I have a friend in the business, or we need to see more houses. Maybe there's maybe is now the right time. When they say these things, they're stalls. Okay, what they're really saying to you, I'm not sure you're the right agent yet. I'm not sure, you haven't convinced me that I should be buying this house. What they're doing is they're unsure. You haven't given them enough information. So you need to provide more information. And that's why I say it's so important when you first meet a client to sit down and have a consultation with them. Forget about sales. The day of being a salesperson, I know you can't say it because RICO doesn't allow us to say it, but to be honest with you, I would rather you think the way a consultant thinks rather than a salesperson. Because let's face it, none of us want a salesperson pushing us into anything. You don't want that. I don't want that. Your customers don't want that. But they love to buy and they want to buy a new house. They want to buy their first home. They want to sell this house. They want a bigger house. You just need to prove to them that you are the right agent and that you're going to do a great job to get them the highest price possible or to help them find the best price. So it's not a no. Don't think an objection is a no. Okay. Using the statement question technique. The first thing, a statement, you always have to remember, must always agree with the client. So in other words, when they say, I have a friend in real estate, okay, uh, potentially you think this is an objection, okay? I happen to think it's a concern. It's not an objection. Everybody has a friend in real estate. Remember one thing, okay, before we deal with that question, because I'll deal with one way that I used to handle it. And if you've taken courses of mine in the past, you may have you'll remember because I've used this before. But always remember that when you are working with people, the worst thing that you can possibly do is get to a point where the customer is battling your opinion against their opinion. It should never get to that. You always want the person to feel you understand. So, thank you, Gabrielle. But, we really would like to talk to we have a friend and we'd like to talk to them first. So I'm going to pause. I'm going to shake my head in a yes direction and I'm going to look at them and I'm going to say something like, Mr. Client, I totally understand. I have some very good friends of my own and I understand the importance of friendship. But remember this before we go any further, real estate people. People usually 95% of the time people don't want to list with their friend. That's the truth. You think they might want to do that. Why do you see people whose relatives list with somebody else? We've seen that. And let me tell you, people, especially friends, if I list my house with a friend, then I have to open up against all my financial situation. Do I have any bad debt? How much money I owe, how much money I make as a job. You got to open up your whole financial life to your friends. Well, let me tell you something. I don't want to do that. I don't know about you. It's easier for me to tell you, I've never met you. I don't know anything about you. You don't know anything about me. We're not close friends. So it's easier for me to tell a stranger that I have maybe some credit problems or I have a little too much money that I owe and it might be a problem qualifying for a mortgage. I don't have as much down payment as I said I had because I'm hoping to borrow some and I haven't told you that. It's easier for me to tell a friend to tell a stranger that than to tell a friend. Always remember that. So the first thing you want to do when you hear their concern or objection is always agree with them. Understandably. Don't agree with them, just understand their point of view is what I'm trying to say. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good point. I understand. I can see how you would be worried or concerned about that. I have friends too. I can see kind of thing. Now, and the next would be, what if, suppose that, would you agree? Would you be able to? Can you find your way? You see what I'm saying? So always, that's what I call the statement question technique. The statement they make, you come back with, I understand. Okay. And now, what if? Okay. Suppose that. So, the friend in the business, by the way, I'll tell you how I used to handle it. And it's a true story. I used to handle it always this way. And it worked a lot of times. It never worked all of the time. Nothing ever works all of the time. That's why you have to have a whole array. One of the things that I'm also working on, by the way, is I'm going to put together, it's going to take me a bit of time, but I'm always working at stuff, is putting together a whole list of different objections and ways that I've handled it with buyers, with sellers, and I'm going to put something like that together that you'll be able to have access to, and I'll make sure that you get a copy of all of it so that you can read. In the meantime, don't be afraid to go online, by the way, and go to YouTube. That's what I've done. Many times I've done that. Gone on to YouTube and I've typed in handling real estate objections. Okay. Now, you might even type the objection in. You might say, overcoming the real estate commission objection. Go to YouTube and type that into YouTube, and you'll find hundreds, thousands of different real estate agents. He handles it this way, she handles it that way, and go there and listen to different ways of handling objections. You don't have my objection, the way I handle it. You may not like the way I handle it. You don't have to listen to just me. You should listen to other agents, lots and lots of them, because that makes you learn. So don't hesitate to do that. Go to YouTube and type your objection in there, and it'll help you figure out ways to do it. Don't live with that problem in your mind. Body language. Oh my God, that's a huge one. Let me tell you, body language. How you sit. For example, if I'm sitting across the table from my client, whether it's a buyer seller, doesn't matter, whether we're at their home or we're at the office and we're sitting across the table there, or even, at Starbucks kind of thing, sitting having a coffee, discussing an offer or whatever. When you talk, if you're leaning forward with your elbows on the table and I'm talking to you, I'm in your face when I do that. And it can come across as quite aggressive, okay, or assertive when you do that. And that's what you don't want to do. You don't want to make your gestures make people feel like you're in their face or you're being too assertive. So when I speak, I lean back in my chair. And when you lean back in your chair and you're comfortably sitting with no hands or elbows on the table, it's a much more relaxed position when you're speaking. Now, when they're speaking, that's when I lean forward and put my arms perhaps on the table, and I will listen to you and perhaps make a few notes while you're speaking. That is one body language that you want to be very, very conscious of. When you speak, lean back in your chair. When you're listening, lean forward in your chair, looking at the person, making sure you're hearing them. So some of the do's: do make good contact with eye contact. Be careful that you don't want to stare. And if there's two parties, try to get them to sit so they're not sitting at opposite ends of a table. So you're staring, you're not doing the tennis match stare where you're going from one side of the table looking at one person, looking turning your head in the other direction to look at the other person, and you're doing a tennis match thing. You know what I mean by that. You don't want that. What you would like to have is both of them within eye contact, that you don't have to switch right to left to right to left. You don't want to do that. So where you sit people makes a difference. Okay. Have an open gaze. In other words, be open. Make yourself, your shoulders down. Be comfortable. Be relaxed. Smile. Okay. That's one thing I wanted to make sure that I could make my clients smile. If I get you to smile, then I know where you feel comfortable, because that's the most important thing when I first meet someone, is to make them feel comfortable with me. Laugh. Don't be afraid to do that. But be careful. You want to laugh appropriately, and you don't want to laugh at the wrong things. Be careful about that too. And keep your arms at your sides. That was basically, if you're standing talking, be careful your arm movements. When you're standing, show the palms up like you see in the little diagram here. Good posture is also important if you're standing speaking to someone. If you're seated, you don't want to have a knee that's shaking. You ever see somebody whose knee is bobbing up and down? Be careful of some of these habits that people have. You got to get rid of them. So keep the feet pointed towards the person, kind of thing. here are the don'ts. Don't blink too much. Okay. Don't stare at someone. Don't wear sunglasses when you're talking to people, your clients. Take your sunglasses off. Oftentimes, I see real estate agents talking to people and have their sunglasses on. That it's even if it's I'm outside, if I'm talking to someone outside, I will take my glasses off to talk to them. I might have my sunglasses on when I'm driving, but when I'm communicating, they come off. Uh, don't drop your head. Don't have your head down, looking down. Your head should always be looking forward. Don't slump. Don't cross your arms like you see the gentleman in this diagram. Be careful of that. That shows you're closed minded. You're not open. Be careful about that. And and don't put your hands in your pocket. That can sometimes be a common thing for both men and ladies, although I gotta admit it's maybe a little bit sometimes more common of a man. And I'm not trying to be sexist here. Don't have a dominant posture. And that's where I was talking about sitting forward. And when you're talking, leaning forward, that's a very dominant posture. Don't fidget. That's with the foot kind of thing, or nails tapping, whatever. And all these little things. It's amazing body language, and how important body language is to the whole persona of dealing with people and objections. Here's some showing some interesting stats about body language. 7% of what someone says, people consider what you say and the importance of feeling comfortable with you and wanting to do business with you. 7%. The tone of your voice is more important than the words that you say, or the information kind of thing. The tone of your voice. You ever listen to someone whose voice is annoying? Then you know what I mean. But look at it, body language. 55% of people believe that body language. So when we appear open to others instead of looking closed, and we seem more welcoming and approachable, warm and safe, and openness, enables us to build a strong connection with people, welcoming people. And not everybody is 100% good with that. It's something you have to learn if you're not feeling comfortable with anyone, but make sure by using your body language wisely, it can make all the difference in the world to helping you overcome your objections that you hear and the concerns that people have. Facial expressions, again, eyes. Oh my God, you ever watch someone's eyes when they're talking or when they're listening, even more? If they're listening to you and you see the two of them looking at each other, rolling their eyes around in their head, or making a gesture with their eyes of some sort, watch their eyes, because I keep saying they're the windows to their mind, they're the windows to their soul. It tells you everything. When I was presenting offers, that's why when I first sat down and the offer, I would always, the listing agent should be taking the offer and handing it to the clients. And when I do that, I tell them I always get there a half an hour before. I don't know how, if you have both sides there, whether you're presenting offers with a buyer's agent, if you're the listing agent. Some agents do, some agents don't. Some areas don't allow the buyer's agents to be there. In Toronto, you can be there on an offer presentation, so long as the seller has not signed that form that says, I don't want any other agents here, just my own. But whenever you're doing a presentation, the first thing when I hand that offer to the client, I say nothing and I wait for a reaction, because you and I both know the first place their eye is going to go is right at the price. On an offer presentation, their eye is going to go at the price, and as soon as they see the price, you know what's going to happen. If they look at the price and then put the offer down, or slide the offer across the table, they haven't read a thing on it, they just looked at the price and slide it across, you know. If they roll their eyes up and like, oh my God, then So very, very important. That's why I would say to them, look, do me a favor. uh Here's the offer. I'd like you to read through it, and I will read through it as well, and I'm going to go through it point by point to make sure that everything is clear and you understand. So very important. It is necessary of maintaining a good flow in the conversation. When someone is speaking to you, make sure you're looking at them. The last thing you want to do And I've seen it where people are speaking to you and you're somebody, the person is fidgeting, they're doing something else, they're not looking at the person. Be careful with that, because when you don't look at someone properly when they're speaking to you, it shows a lack of interest, and that's not what you want to do. So, and you don't want to be staring at them either. So that's why I say, if there's two parties there, what you want to be doing is moving your eye from one person to the other, and that's why where you sit them is so important. um ah, Listening. The highest compliment that you can pay someone is listening to them. Seriously, it is the highest compliment. I say to real estate agent, that's why you've heard this before a million times. That's why we have 2 ears and only one mouth. We should do more listening and less talking. So pay attention. Uh, no judgment. Doesn't matter what they say. Doesn't matter. You can never ever hold any judgment on any person on anything. And if it looks, you may not think you're judging them, but maybe it's some sort of body language gesture that we talked about, or even the slightest comment can be taken the wrong way. That's why every word counts. When you're dealing with people you don't know their lifestyle, you don't know their values, all of that. So be careful with that one. You want to reflect. What you're really trying to do is get a meeting of the minds. And that's why you're listening, you're paying close attention to them, you're reflecting on what they're saying, you're thinking about what they're saying. What does that have to do with what we're doing here? Does it have anything to do? Is because by listening, they can give you the information you need that will help you close them. They just revealed something to you, and now you can pick up on that and say that's their number one reason. Everybody has a pain. I say what you're looking for is the pain in someone. So when someone says they love their home and they're never going to sell, I'm telling you right now, there's nobody walking the planet that loves everything about their home. Even if they had their home custom built for them, I guarantee you, after they chose every single little nail that goes in the wall, they're going to come back at the end of this whole thing a month later, 5 months later, down the road. They're going to say, you know what we didn't do? We should have done this. I guarantee you, nobody loves their house 100%. So I say that to you because what I want you to do is be able to know how to listen and read between the lines of what they're really saying to you. And that's and anything that you're not sure about, don't be afraid to clarify. Could you help me? I'm not quite sure I understood. And then say what it is you're not clear on and ask if they could clarify that. Summarize. So what we've talked about here today is A, B, C, D, okay? And share. Great communication with people is about sharing, and it's about the two, you sharing with them and them sharing with you. So that's going to make people feel more comfortable as well. So very important to understand the importance of listening to people. It's the highest compliment, truthfully, that you could ever pay anyone. I'm sorry this takes a little time here. This internet today is crazy. Embrace technology. You know, let me say to you, a lot of the clients that you're dealing with today, as we well know, I'm of the baby boom generation. So technology for the baby boom generation may not be as important, but I disagree with that even now, because I think everybody is into technology. I used to say to real estate agents, the easiest way to lose a client, and that's why I say to agents, you got to make sure that you've embraced it, you're using it, you're learning it, you're constantly learning and how to use it, technology to find buyers, to sell houses, to promote, and so on, to do your administration and so on, because a lot of clients that you're dealing with, that's all they know. And how easy can you be eliminated, Mr. Seller? I would recommend that you do not list your house with any real estate agent that is not 100% in tune with marketing on the internet, because 98% of all buyers are coming to us via the internet. So you need to know you've got a real estate agent who's in tune with technology and has embraced. And now you can point out how you do. That's why I'm saying very important. Show up online. Do you have a website? Do you have your social media, all the different social media channels that you're using, and let people know. I've just finished a listing presentation, by the way. I don't know if you've taken my listing presentation course. This is uh, uh, the course that I just wrote. It's a one day course. It's about 2 hours long, roughly, and it's actually a presentation that I've created that you can use when you're out there doing appointments with sellers. So please, if you haven't taken it yet, watch for it. It's a certification course. You get certified as being a higher standard certified listing professional. And I cover robust Wi-Fi connection. Make sure when you go into a home that you don't, and you're obviously going to be using the internet. You should be when you're doing a listing presentation or a buyer presentation. Make sure that you don't say to them, oh, by the way, what's your Wi-Fi password here? I want to connect. You don't want to connect to their Wi-Fi. You want to be able to have your own Wi-Fi. Connect through your cell phone. If you're not sure how to do that, ask somebody in your office, ask your manager. Go to a Rogers store, wherever it is that you, if you have Bell connection, whatever it is, get them to show you, but learn how to do it. Go online. It's not a difficult thing. Okay. A knowledgeable digital agent. Customers want to know you are totally up to date on everything. So make sure you're embracing technology. Here are what I call the 4 yeses. When you look at an offer presentation we're talking about here right now, you're looking for that. Here are the 4 yeses: a yes to the price, a yes to the terms of the offer, a yes to the extras, and a yes to the closing date. Absolutely. Those are the 4 yeses. So when I said to you earlier, the closing begins when you first meet a client. So I'm working with you, the buyer. We're sitting having our consultation. I'm explaining to you, the buyer, when you find the right house, we need to act, and we need to act quickly, because look at how fast they know there's a tremendous lack of supply of homes. Why is that? Because for the last 20 years, practically since 1997, just so you are aware, with a couple of small blips in there, 2008, this real estate market in the GTA and in Ontario has been rising for the last 20 years. Since 1997, it's even more than that, 22 years or 3 years, whatever it is. So my point is, I explain to them, when you find that right house and we put an offer together, we'll look at what the seller wants. And if we see a closing date that says November 30th, there's a reason. You know that. They don't just choose a date randomly. They want November 30th because maybe they bought another house and it's a closing on their other house. So they need the funds for that date. So my point is, you want 4 yeses. So if I say to them, let's give them the closing date, now you only need 3 yeses. Now, the extras, they say they're willing to leave the dishwasher, the fridge, and stove, but they didn't say the washer and dryer. And the client says, well, what about the washer and dryer? Are they going to leave the washer and dryer? Well, they don't say they will on the listing. So the buyer says, well, I want the washer and dryer. So if you add it, that's one more yes you have to give. What I don't like to include appliances unless they're on the listing. If they're not on the listing, I say to them, Mr. Buyer, you'd be better off trying to buy these appliances away after the transaction. You'll pay less money than if you try to include it in the purchase price. It's not on the listing, so obviously they weren't willing to leave it. So it means that if you want it, they're going to think, well, I have to go out and buy brand new. It's going to cost me $3,000. That's, to buy good ones because the ones I got here were good ones. And now they're going to want to, because that's what it's going to cost them. You see what I'm saying? So my point is here, you try to talk them out and say, look, what's the most important thing? Getting the washer and dryer or buying the house at the best price? You're better off. Let it go. So now they aren't asking for the washer and dryer. So you have a yes to the extras. You have a yes to the closing date. Probably a cash offer with a condition on financing, because that's where most of offers are today. That the terms are okay unless somebody puts in some clauses like the sale of a property or something like that. So the terms might be an issue, but the price is typically the one area where the most is at issue here. So you've got 3 yeses or you've got 2 yeses. What you don't want is having a problem, the closing date change, the extras you've got to work on, the terms you got to work on, and the price you got to work on. It's like a whole new offer, if you follow what I'm saying. So that's why I say to real estate agent, educate your seller, educate your buyer. When an offer comes in, Mr. Seller, if it comes in from another agent, I don't know what the offer is going to be until we present it. So always remember, what we're looking for. The fewer the changes, Mr. Seller, the better. And the quicker we respond, the better. We don't want to give them a whole lot of time to think about it. They've put an offer in. It's important that we act quickly. You got to tell people that. That's all important when it comes to negotiating, okay? And dealing with objections. Okay, timing and handling objections. And we basically talked about that. I said, when I first hear it, I'm stone deaf. This is exactly the same thing. I found this on the internet, this little diagram, and I thought, oh, it was a good one to use. Objection flyby technique. I call it, I'm stone deaf. They call it the flyby technique. You don't have to handle objections, especially when you're on prospecting calls, kind of thing, in this case. Rather than engaging, let objections fly right by and handle them during the listing presentation is in this case. Here's an example. I'll have you know my son has a real estate license. Oh, your son is in the business. That's great. It's always nice to have people that you can trust. Now, when you do sell your home, where do you think you might be going next? You see, I didn't try to deal with that. I just let it go. Okay. And move forward, as they say. So most agents assume that objections must be overcome for the conversation to continue. That's not true. Okay. That's why I say you don't have to handle every single thing, especially when you're on a prospecting call. If you're making any prospecting calls still, when someone asks you on a phone, what's your commission? I don't get into it on a phone call ever when I'm trying to get an appointment. I will never answer that question in 100 years. If you, the seller, I'm trying to get an appointment with you and you say, well, what's your commission? I'm going to answer it this way. I'm going to say, is commission, Mr. Seller, the most important uh, point that you're going to have to make and who you choose as an agent? In other words, is it the commission that's going to make you make the decision? And if they say, absolutely it is, not a problem at all. When can we meet? Friday afternoon or Friday evening? What's better for you? On the weekend? Give them an alternate choice. I promise you we'll talk about the commission when we sit down. What day is better for you? What time is better for you? I won't deal with that objection. Is the commission going to be your deciding factor? Yes, it is. No problem at all. I'll make sure it's the first thing we talk about. When can we meet? That's the way I'm going to handle it. I'm not going to answer it because it's not just about commission. It's about the marketing of the property, the things you're going to do to market the property, the money you're going to spend. The minute you list your house with me, Mr. Seller, I'm starting to spend money. I'm hiring a photographer. I hire a videographer. I hire someone to come in and maybe help you stage the property. If you follow, I'm spending money right away. If you follow what I'm saying. So very important to understand the timing of how you're handling these objections and when you should be handling them. Common causes of objections, and I'm referring to a client now. I'm not referring to the real estate agent. Lack of knowledge. They just maybe don't understand. So, they have an objection, but it's potentially it could be just because they don't understand. They come from Nova Scotia and they cannot understand why house prices are so high over here. Well, you've come for you follow what I'm saying? So they just don't understand. And it's our job to educate them. That's why I say to real estate agent, That's what you got to do with every client. Specific or possible warranted concern. Price too high, too low than expected. Fear of losing money. Oh my God, I remember this one client I had a long time ago, long time ago, but I'll never forget it. This man had saved $100,000. And this was at a time where, $100,000 was a huge down payment. It isn't now. But back then, when house prices were $89,000, $90,000, $95,000, $105,000, it was almost cash. Okay. And this man had never owned a property, and he was going every week to his bank. I said, wow, that's a handsome deposit. I said, did you save all of that money yourself? Yes, I did. Every week. Boy, I've been saving this for 25 years, or however long he said. I can't remember. But anyways, now here's what I want you to understand. Think about that for a minute. Put yourself in their shoes. They have gone to their bank with paychecks every week or every month, however they get paid, and a little money goes in their savings account, and they have their bank book. They can look at and see how much this is in the day when we had the bank books, and that you could see, the money's there, it's safe, it's going up, I'm getting some interest, and there's my money. There it is right there. And now you're asking me to take all that money out of my bank account and what? Buy a house with it? How do I know I'm going to buy it in the right area? What if I lose all the 25 years of saving that money? You see what I mean? That is what your problem is in this case. And that was his concern. He wanted a house so bad, but he was terrified that he was going to make a bad decision. So I had to spend my time with him, proving to him the value. This is where today we couldn't do that back in my day, but today you can. You can do a CMA for a buyer the same way you do a CMA for a seller, if you know what I mean. Prove to him by showing him what is on the market, what is sold, what was on the market and expired at certain prices. Prove to him that kind of thing. So my point is, sometimes it's warranted concern. They have a fear of losing money in the case that I just explained. Hidden agenda. Oh my God, that's another biggie. Listen, it could be that trying to get a listing and one party really wants to list and the other party doesn't. They're firm. They do not want to sell their house at all. And what you don't know, because they're maybe not telling you, I'm just making this up as a point to make my point clear of what I mean by a hidden agenda. The husband or the wife wants a divorce, the other one doesn't, and the house is the final part. The house goes on the market, they split their money, and they move on. One party wants to, the other doesn't. They're not going to tell you that. They're going to they want to withhold that. So there might be a hidden agenda. It could be that one of the parents says they're going to lend them the money for part of the money for the down payment. Well, the father and mother are fighting over it now. One of them wants to lend, the other one doesn't. So now there's that. So remember, here's what I used to do. Again, back to my rule of three. When I took you out 3 times, showed you maybe 4 or 5 houses each time. After I've taken you three times and I've shown you 12, 15 homes, I used to make you rate from a scale of 1 to 10 each house. Give it a 1 for lousy, give it a 10 or somewhere close to that if it was great. And I would ask you to rate them. Because one of the most important things for me was to make sure that we were on the same page of what you like and what you don't like. And so important to always understand their preference. And the rule of three times out, they haven't bought anything yet. I remember one of the first things my broker of record, when I was brand new in the industry, maybe not brand new, but a year in the business, maybe not even that long. And he said to me, always remember, Gabrielle, if a buyer keeps wanting to look at more houses, even though you found them the right house, I'm telling you what they're doing there is there's something going on that they're not telling you. There's a hidden something going on that they're not telling you. You've got to find out what it is that's bugging them, because there's something that they're not telling you. And I would sit and I'd say, we've been out 4 times, 3 times. We've looked at 15 houses, however many. And I'm just wondering, we've talked about a lot of things. You've looked at a lot of houses. Is there anything that you're worried about, concerned about, that maybe you haven't shared with me? Like, I want to help you, and perhaps I have a solution to what your concern is. Let me know. And so I would reevaluate. Where are we? Where are we going? You rated this one an 8. You rated this one a 7. You see? Uh, and that's why it's important to make sure clarity of knowing you have found them what they want, and that you've really heard what they want. There we go. I hope I have helped. Let me just go cancel this. There we are. Okay. Hey, we had a pretty decent crowd here. I thought we looked like we were going to have only a few. So let me see if there's any questions. Do we need to have a website in the social media? Is social media not enough? Social media is not enough. I'm glad you asked that question. Thank you very much for asking that question. No such thing as a stupid question, by the way. Every question is important. The only stupid questions are the ones you don't ask. You've heard that before. Thank you, by the way, for your applause and your thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Makes me feel appreciated. Let me say to you about the website, and here's why it is important. I'd like you to think of the wheel of a car for a moment. Bear with me. The wheel of a car, okay? And the hubcap. I want you to remember the hubcap is your website. The bolts that hold the wheel in place are your social media. So my social media in real estate, it's all about finding your niche. If you've taken a course of mine, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. I sell luxury condos in downtown Toronto. I'm using that as an example. I sell luxury condos in downtown Toronto. My website is the best website of any website that has all kinds of great information about buying and selling condos in Toronto. And my social media is my salesperson. It is out there finding customers. It's building my fan base, and the fans are sent to my website because that's where I have everything. You can search listings there. You know all about my history, who I am, what I've done. You can look at my listings. You can look at all the listings in Toronto there. You got all the information about buying a condo in Toronto. Is it a good investment? Is it a bad investment? How much? What's for sale in the financial district? What's for sale in the entertainment district? Is it still a good time to be buying condos? What's the rental? What's the vacancy rate? You see what I mean? My website has everything. Social media is the only reason you have social media and need it and always should have it is because it's helping you build your database and sending them to your website. Your website is what's going to make you the money. So yes, absolutely, you need a website. Without question, you need a website. I can't be more firm on that. And you need your social media. I hope that answers your question. Some say, yes, the commission, I want to know commission first. In other words, they want to know commission before you come in to see their home. Listen, I can totally understand you want to know commission. Let me say to you, if you're asking me, is commission a negotiable feature? Yes, it is a negotiable feature. It is. You can't lie. So if someone says, is commission negotiable? Yeah, it is. Does it mean I'm going to negotiate? Maybe, maybe not. It's up to you. So, but telling them my commission is this, whatever that number is for. I had someone yesterday who said they do it for 4%. Not a problem at all. When can I come over? We'll talk about it. No problem at all. I'm not saying no. But will I give them my commission over the phone? No. And let me tell you why. Okay. Everything, always remember this. If I talk price, well, how much did that house down the street sell for? And what do you think houses are going for on this street right now? If I start getting into commission, I start getting into pricing, why do you need to see me? You don't need to see me. I've just given you everything you need to know. You're evaluating me based on a phone call. No, thank you. You need to sit across the table. Well, okay, maybe now with COVID, there's still people who don't want you. then let's do a Zoom call and let me do my presentation by Zoom. I'm okay. I don't necessarily have to be sitting across the table from you, but I at least want to be looking, have each other looking at each other when we're doing a presentation, if you know what I mean. So my point is, you want to make sure that you have the time to do a whole presentation, not answering one or two, price and commission. Those are the two most important questions. You need to know what I'm going to do. You need to allow me to show you everything I'm going to do to market your home and why you need to choose me. Why me? I could ask 10 real estate agents right now, give me 10 reasons why I should list my house with you. I guarantee you 85% couldn't answer 10. They might be able to give me 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, but would they be able to give me 10? Take my course and you'll know what the 10 reasons are. You'll have more than 10 reasons. So again, no. Uh, if they want to talk commission, you need to do a presentation. Remember that. It's the single most important thing. Okay. Hope I've answered that. Great information. Thank you very much. Very informative webinar. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Great information. Appreciate that. Where do I find the specific topic with your past webinars? Oh, okay. If you go, I think this is Tim Fu that's asking me the question about my other courses and where can I find them. Very simple. If you go to go to homelife.com, and when you go to homelife.com, go into the resource section. If you don't know how to get into the resource section, when you go to homelife.com, you look at the top, you'll see broker agent right at the top of the page. On the web page, click on broker agent. It'll ask for a login and a password. If you can't remember what your login and password is, Tim, you need to go to your broker of record or go to the administrator, the person at the front desk. They'll show you how to be able to access that. Then you put in your login and password, and it's gonna ask you to agree. Yes, you agree, and now you're in the resource section of Home Life. The only people who can get into that are Home Life agents or brokers of record. The public can't get into this section. And then if you click at the top, you'll see, or look at the menu on the left, you'll see Home Life University, HL University. Click on HL University. A drop-down menu is there, and you'll see video webinar archive. Click on that. They're all there. I hope that answers your question. If you're still not sure, talk to your broker of record. He will show you how to find that. Can you please list of things to do to sell a property, as you mentioned in the last webinar? Can you please list things that you do? Listen, I have a listing presentation course that will give you a whole listing presentation, Mr. Khan or Miss Khan, I'm not sure. Ayub, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I apologize if I'm not, Ayub. But yes, you need to take that listing course. It's the Higher Standards Listing Professional course. Another one is going to be offered in probably the next 2 to 3 weeks. We just haven't picked a date yet. Watch for it. I've already done one. I just finished it. And you will be able to not only get a certified for taking the course, it's about 2 hours, but you're also going to have a full copy of the presentation, and you'll know what to do and what to say on a presentation. So watch for that. A couple of weeks, you'll see another course on that as well. I email you as well. I'm not sure. Oh, maybe you were emailing me that question is what you're saying. If you want to email me, you've got my email address here. That's great. I'll see what you've asked for there. And oh, it's a Mr. Khan. Thank you very much. Okay. I think we got everything here. So great. It is now 10 after 11. I hope you've had a great day and look forward to seeing you. Our next course, by the way, is, let me see. The next course is, this is an important one, October 19 and 20. It's a 2-day course, 2-hour days, and it is the Higher Standards Certified Digital Professional. You need to take that course. It goes through everything about websites, everything you need to know about making money with your website, social media. And today, folks, you know that it's digital. Forget about real estate. You look at even the business world. We've gone through this COVID thing for the last couple of years. Think about all those places that closed their retail stores. A lot of clothing stores that closed up. Shoe stores closed up. The ones that closed up are the ones that didn't have an internet presence, that did not have a online presence. The businesses that had online presence, that were selling clothes and shoes and whatnot online, they survived because they marketed. They found new ways of marketing. So I say to real estate people, it's a digital world, and you need to take that course. October 19th and 20th. Uh, and then the last course, I think, is yeah, the buyer professional one I'm working on right now. I'm hoping to have it finished by next week. Watch for that. It's coming up in the next couple of weeks. That's a higher standards buyer professional. And this is a course that you can take. You will also have a copy of the presentation that you can download and use with buyers as well. I'm still working on that and not able to give it to you right now because it's not finished. But thank you all very much. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you again in next week. I hope to see you for that 19th and 20th. Take care.